Welcome, everyone. We haven't done an evening edition of the party line in a long time. It's mostly because I'm just getting old. I go to bed too early now. So I've stayed up late to the magic hour of 8 p.m. for a special edition with a party line newcomer, Kristina McGowan, who I am so excited to have her here. We didn't get a chance to have you here for your first book. And
Yeah.
so I'm excited you did a second one, more modern top down knitting, which is absolutely gorgeous. And
Oh, thank you.
so welcome, Christina. So clap, clap, clap. Welcome, Christina. So thank you for joining us, and especially for for evening edition. So,
Of
because
course.
I don't know if you're old and tired like me, um, and
I'm a bit of
and
a bit of a know.
yeah, if you're already in your jammies like I am. So so tell us a little bit, since it's your first time that you're here. Tell us a little bit about how you got started in knitting.
Uh, I uh, I didn't learn from anyone actually. I learned from books. I just went to the public library when I was about 10. I had found a crochet hook in my mother's sewing basket, and I wanted to know how to use it. Her mom was an avid crocheter. My mom's Austrian, and her mom, who I hadn't really spent a lot of time with at that point, but she had visited briefly and left the crochet hook behind. And I remember just on a whim deciding to go down to the library and get books on crochet and knitting, and then just basically got all the ones I could find there, and just went to my room and taught myself how to do it. I was just determined. I loved it. I loved it from the start. I think my family, we've always said that, that it's in their genes on that side of the family, on the Austrian side. And later I did get to meet them and see their work and learn more about it from them. But I just took to it like a duck to water. I loved it. I don't know why. I think a lot of people that I've talked to since, it's like something, it takes you to a meditative place and a creative place, and to be able to make things for people that you love. I don't think that there's any greater gift to give someone than something that you've made. And yeah, that's how I got started in it.
Yeah, I think there's something about the handmade gift, because it's not just the gift of what you're giving it. It's such a gift of your time, which is something that nobody else can give them, which I think there is something really
Yeah, that's
magical
exactly
about
right. I
that.
agree. And you have to be very judicious then on who.
Oh yeah, they definitely have
Yeah,
to deserve
it's
it.
true. I mean, it's almost.
They have to deserve it and
Yeah, I
appreciate
agree.
it, right? Or you can't, or they
You have
don't
to,
get another
yeah.
one.
No, you have to be very judicious on who gets the handmade stuff.
Oh, I totally agree. If they don't appreciate the first one, there's no second one. Yeah, and that's what Musker says. Don't you hate it when they don't appreciate what you made? Because I agree. I once gave a hat and scarf to a nephew who, and it was very expensive, beautiful yarn, and he looked at it. It was like, oh, yeah, that was the last time I ever knit him anything. So,
Wow.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, he would, yeah, you have to be really careful about that. So,
Yeah.
but that, yeah, that's true. So did you teach yourself to knit from a book as well?
I did. I did. Yeah, that was just a challenge that I took upon myself. I love any kind of craft.
Wow. And so now, did you ever take a break
Just
from
that
knitting
was one of the
and,
ones that I really wanted to learn. And then in subsequent yeah, we had my family, my mom's family's in Austria, so I spent summers with them, and many of my relatives, they were knitters, and friends of relatives were knitters, older women, and
oh,
they
nice.
taught me
Yeah,
tricks.
yeah, old world knitting. So and now I know a lot of people like they learn and then they take a long break and then they come back. Did you always
Yes,
stick with it or
Austrians, they're hardcore.
yeah. So did you ever take a break or did you just stick with it?
It's always been a part of me.
Oh, nice.
No, no, I've always in some capacity. I think there's sometimes I turn to it more often than others in my life,
So
but yeah,
so
it's always
what's
been a present. concept.
What started the interest in the top-down technique for you?
I had a period where I had had a copy of Barbara Walker's book for several years before I actually sort of had the patience to sit down and read through it. I think a lot of people that I've met since, they um, erroneously think that it's a pattern book, or they approach it as if it's a pattern book and not a technique book. And so, in my case, especially too, you sort of put off with, the a great deal of text and explanation, and there's no patterns, and you're like, what is this? To try to figure out that it's actually a tool to let you uh, design on your own and independently go off on your own and free yourself from set patterns and design from from your own measurements, and these sort of novel concepts that if you're not quite ready for it could be, in my case, were off-putting. I didn't think I could do it. um, the illustrations that were used, because the book was done in the early 70s, were, culottes and, things that may seem dated, but that are anything are far from dated. These are concepts that you can take any of the templates and translate it to modern day. There's nothing that I can see that I couldn't see realized from a top-down pattern that you can't translate from those just the 12 that she set forth in that book. But I'd always sort of wanted to know more about it and know what it was about, and that was a challenge I set for myself, where I just spent about a month reading through it and underlining everything and trying to figure out. There's large blocks of text. Those familiar that and have gone through the book just like I have, they know that there's very few illustrations. She sits there and she makes you do the work. You've got to really do the work. And I loved that challenge. I loved her tone. Very encouraging and matter of fact, and sit down and do it and learn this, and very encouraging and hopeful. I love that. Those initial months with the book were very, very special to me, because I felt it just opened up a whole new way of understanding something that I'd always, really cared about. I think a lot of people feel that way toward their knitting. It's just something that they really care about. It's something that has really been a wonderful thing in my life. Creatively, and I just think that when somebody comes along like Walker for me, and presents a whole new way of doing things, that it's just very, very inspiring and very uplifting. Just very, because I think technique books in knitting are rare. I mean, at least books that outline, entirely new methods. So that was a very, very exciting time for me, discovering the book and actually having the patience and discipline. I said, I'm not gonna shy away from it. I'm not gonna if I get lost, I'm just going to keep at it. And it was a very, very, very rewarding experience, those first few months with it.
Well, so the rest of us, though, appreciate that you took it apart and then actually created garments for us, so that we don't have to do that work. So let's take a peek at the
But
book.
I would encourage you to do that work too. I would encourage you to do it, because it's basically just a look what can be done, and look what you can also do. I think that that's a really neat way to look at her book. It's a guide. It's a guide to designing your own your own items, and actually really freeing yourself from set sizes and set patterns, because we're all so different. And if you start a garment from the top down, you have such greater control over fit. You're able to try it on at any point in the process and adjust your fit accordingly, which is remarkable. You were talking earlier about knitting things for people, and how much time it takes and how expensive it is too. I mean, yarn it's a very expensive hobby. You can get into really beautiful yarn and spend a lot of money and a lot of time. And when you put that kind of sort of emotional and monetary investment into something, it's just so, it's such a downer when you come to the end of the road and it doesn't fit, or you don't
Oh
like how
yeah.
something turned out. And this method really sort of allows you to bypass all that stress. You're able to just sort of make really smart choices, and put the all your stitches on a piece of waste yarn, put it over your head, see what's going on, see where you might need to add to adjust to your own body. And it allows you to become familiar to your own measurements, to the point where you don't have those problems anymore, where, oh dear, my sleeves aren't long enough, or I wish I had 2 or 3 more inches here at the waist. And so it really gives you control, which is just a wonderful pairing with the amount of time and money it takes too. So
It's the garment version of knitting your socks from the toes up, where everything is in the right place,
mhm.
which is so nice when that
Yeah,
happens, isn't it? Yeah,
yeah,
where everything actually fits the way it's supposed to. I
yeah.
I
Because
love being able to try things on as you go.
yeah, I think it just I think what happens in my sort of sort of understanding of it, it's like the method doesn't allow you to, the traditional ways of making a bunch of separate pieces and then sewing them together. There are people that get wedded to a certain way of making something, and they feel very comfortable in it, and they don't want to sort of veer off into anything else, and I completely respect that. But what I think that left us with is, and what Barbara, writes and explains too in her book, is that we can break this thinking, that which treats knitting like sewing, where you just make a bunch of separate pieces and sew them all together, as if it was a piece of fabric that you were sewing together. And you could take advantage of knitting's unique properties, the fact that you can have a provisional cast on, and you can knit both ways without a join, and you could pick up stitches, and you could take advantage of knitting's fluid nature and all the things that we can do with knitting that you can't do with sewing. And her project was to show all the ways that as knitters we can take advantage of the unique properties of knitting and free ourselves from this mindset that treats knitting like sewing. And in so doing, with the use of circular needles and with the use of all these wonderful tricks that we already have in our larders, that we can bypass all the sewing. And I know people, like, I've met people that say, well, I like to seam, and but there's a lot of people that's a great step to avoid. If you could do everything in the round, which is primarily what top down embraces, that you could free yourself from having in my opinion too, the laborious task of having to sew everything together at the end, or questioning fit, or any of that. It just really, again, I go back to the control that it gives us. It gives us a lot more control, and it's just it's a neat alternative to learn about, even if you don't, decide, okay, I'm going full throttle top down from now on. I don't know, just a neat thing to add to our understanding of the craft.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean that you have to make every garment this way. It's just another option that you have, which is really one of the beautiful things about knitting is there are so many different ways to create.
Yeah,
So, and there's no one right way or wrong way to do it, which is there's as many right ways to do it as there are knitters. So, which is really one of the really things that
yeah.
I
It
love.
really comes down to personal preference,
Yeah.
I think, too.
Yeah. So, and I know there was a question initially about this skirt, and I am so addicted to embellished knitting. So this skirt just made me crazy when I first saw it. There was a question about whether whether this is lined to keep it from, getting any butt sag from sitting in it. Is this the skirt lined?
I don't line the skirts. No,
Okay.
it's funny. I did have, when I met Barbara, we had a long talk about lining, and she even says in the book, I don't, there's no, I don't personally feel a need to line it. If you want, you could maybe wear a slip with it, but I've had many knitted skirts over the years. I've never had any problems with bunching. I don't know. I think, Barbara makes the argument too, because it's it's the back is the same as the front. You could just, if you're getting sag or anything, that if
Turn it
one
around.
side's getting worn, you could flip it over. But it's like any sort of heavy fabric garment. It's not. I've never had any problems with sag or have found the need to line it. I think it's um, I don't know. It's an interesting question, but no, I've never had the need for that.
Yeah, and I think part of that's probably also a function of how tightly you're knitting the gauge on the fabric. Obviously, if you're knitting something that's really loose and wiggly, you're going to get a lot more movement in that fabric too. And this looks like a really sturdily knit fabric
Yeah,
that you've made this into.
the linen stitch. It's just
Yeah.
wonderful. It's a very nice, easy, and it wears very well. Um, I haven't had any problems with. I've
Yeah.
heard that mentioned before, the sag, but I've never had that with a skirt. So
Yeah, this is really pretty. This
thank
is
you.
this is lovely. So so all of these garments are all top-down projects, right?
Yes, I couldn't get away with putting anything bottom up in a top-down book.
Yeah, I think there's somebody was there'd have to be a big giant asterisk like over like on the picture here. So
Yeah. No,
this
I don't
is
knit anything bottom up anymore. I
yeah,
knit
this is
everything top down.
so you pretty much knit exclusively from the top now.
Yeah, and the project for this book was to take Barbara's 12 templates, Barbara Walker's 12 templates, and do 2 items from each template. So she has 12 templates in the book, so there's 2 items taken from it. And the nice thing about her book too is that she has, there's variations of, one template can have, I mean, many different versions of the pants, and but there's one basic outline, and then different ways that she suggests how to varieties of that, like different things that you can do to make them certain shapes. But I did, yeah, that was the project, to do 2 of each.
Yeah, the lace panels in this is really pretty, and this neckline on this is really lovely. With that
Oh, thank you.
with that wide neckline is just so pretty. And for people who live in, you know, warmer climates like me, it's funny because people think that if you live in Florida, you probably don't knit unless you're just making dishcloths. So, I mean, this is a really lovely warm weather piece here. Really pretty. And this I just fell in love
Oh,
with.
thank you.
Now,
That's that. Oh, thank you.
now is this the same template as the one that we just looked at?
Yeah, they're both raglans. The one is the cotton one. The one that you showed before
Yeah.
is the reversible boat neckline. It's a variation of the raglan template. And then this is just a classic raglan that I had fun with doing the duplicate stitch. I've become obsessed with duplicate stitch. I think it's a wonderful way to add color and come up with designs, and very easy to gives you a lot. For me, I'm not a very big fan of intarsia or color. I love being able to do it, to add color, and so the duplicate stitch for me was a great way to do it.
I agree. And plus you can figure it out after you finish the sweater.
Yeah, it's so fun charting it. It's so
Yeah.
fun. It's so fun to chart and to play around and to get, I do it all on knitter graph paper, but there's computer programs now that you can just download and fiddle around and try to come up with. There's that wonderful website Knit Pro. They convert you can submit an image, and they convert it to a knitting chart, which I love. Um,
And if you change your mind, you can just clip it out and replace it with something else, which is nice.
yes, yes, yes. It gives you options.
Yeah, because if it's in Tarja, once it's in, it's in. So,
Yeah, and also you don't have to worry so much about your tension and getting the tension perfect. And
and there's
I
no
love.
ends to weave in.
Nope.
No. So Mooskers ask, can the sleeves, when you're knitting from the top down, can sleeves always be extended?
Yes, that's a beauty of as someone who has unusually long arms myself, and always bemoans the fact that sleeves are standardly quite short. Because it's top down, it's a wonderful advantage. It's a wonderful advantage for the body of it. You can go longer. You have complete control. There's no real guesswork because you know where you're starting and know where you want to end. You can just slip it over your head like you do. It's great.
Oh, really nice. This is so pretty, and the colors
Thank
on
you.
this are just gorgeous, Christina. Really pretty.
Thank you. Thank
This is
you.
so sharp.
Oh,
Capes
thanks.
are capes are so big. They're so on trend this year. I see them everywhere. But there's something about the shape on the shoulders on this that's just I don't know. I mean, it's just really really cool, and I
That's the.
want this.
Oh, thank
Would
you.
would you knit this for me? I just don't really have time, and I would like to wear this.
It's very sturdy. I liked it. I like all the stitches that I use in the book are all from Walker's. She has a treasury set that I'm sure you're
I have in my
familiar
library, yes.
familiar with, right? And so I drew all of the stitch patterns for the book are drawn from her books. Many times that she would have, these wonderful descriptions that she would, have to accompany the stitch patterns, and so it was just very fun to go through and this one is called, I think, the Pearl Twist fabric stitch, and very dense and heavy and really neat for outerwear, she wrote, and so I thought, okay, I'll give it a try, and I did. I liked it. I liked
Yeah,
the
and it's
sturdiness.
and this zips up the front, right? That's what
It does. I used a double zipper on it, which I had discovered just from, trying to figure out. I don't like the idea that it might be too constricting, so I like the idea of for styling options for that and this other coat, this jacket that I included that you can zip it from the bottom up too.
oh, nice. Yeah. For people like me who are a little claustrophobic, that's always nice too, where you can give your neck a little more room. So,
That'd be me too.
very, very, very cute. I definitely, I love the shoulder line on
Yeah.
this. It's very sharp. And it loses, it just doesn't have that
Thank you.
bulkiness too. And I love how this is styled. Now, are there, because I couldn't tell from the cover of the book. Are there actually belt loops knit into this skirt, or is this just the
No, no,
styling? Okay,
it was just the styling. Yeah, the
okay,
cover you can see there's no belt loops. It's just I just finished the top with I encased a piece of you don't have to, but I encased a piece of elastic in the top edge just to give it some shape. But you don't have no. There's no. That was the stylist choice to put that on there.
yeah, and we
But
do like it when our skirts don't actually fall off. So a little bit of security is a little bit of security is a good thing. This
yeah.
this is so cute. My niece would love this. She's 18 and she would look adorable in this. So tell us about this little ruffled darling here.
The nice thing, I mean, I kept it a bit short, but you can extend it. It's just a series of ruffles that you could do the middle panel, you could do the middle panel a few times. There's a panel in you know, the middle panel, you can make a couple of them if you wanted to make the skirt longer. I know the length is maybe not everybody's cup of tea, but I think there too, it's completely top down. You can just adjust it. And I tried to add those tips in the book where people, can, hey, this is a chance to customize if you want to make it knee length or add additional ruffles. It'd be really easy to do it. But this is the Ellsworth of Old's silky wool, which I
Oh,
adore
I
it.
love that yarn.
Right? It's just a very drapey, beautiful yarn, and
Yeah.
I like the movement of it a lot, and I love the colors it comes in.
And it's very light.
Yeah,
It's just
it's a
very
beautiful,
lightweight.
yeah, lightweight, but shows the stitches very well and the
Yeah.
structure on.
And it has it has a very cool kind of tweedy look to it, but it's not a heavy like tweedy yarn.
That's exactly right. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
got the flecks, those great flecks in there. Yeah, I
Yeah.
like it very much.
Yeah, very nice. Really
Thank you.
pretty. So these I probably would not wear.
I know.
Although
Those socks.
my 18-year-old niece would look fabulous in them, but my 57-year-old butt is probably not going to be sporting these. But they're
No.
very cute. So, so this is from the pants version that Barbara Walker top
The
down
pink
pants.
yes, and that, and then the longer, the sort of yoga, this sort of yoga pant pair that I did, and I was very reluctant initially because I thought that was the one template that really stumped me because I thought I don't want to do pants. I can't foresee any kind of pant that I would want to wear. But the trick, and one of the things that I learned, and it was just very rewarding, and all of the knitted pants that I made for the book is probably one of my most favorite things. It's just the irony of it because I was so reluctant. Is that for me the trick was to take the pants out of the whole streetwear realm and to say, okay, these aren't going to be pants I'm going to wear out. They're going to be pants that I'm going to wear on a weekend, and they're going to be, likened to a pair of favorite sweatpants. And the shorts are sort of along that line. And from a technical standpoint, the pants template are for people that like challenges or like to see how things work or just want to marvel at this incredible feat that she pulled off to have a pair of pants or shorts that are completely seamless.
Which is
There's no seam,
crazy.
there's no sewing. So it's one continuous, through a series of increases and using the circular needles and the join that she uses. All of that is, from a technical standpoint, aside from the fact that, okay, are most of us going to be, running around with a pair of knitted shorts outside? Probably not. But inside, I tell you, weekend wear, Merry Christmas. They're great. They're very comfortable. The pants are just super comfortable. They're warm. They're great. But from a technical standpoint, I would advocate for anybody to try it because it's hard to believe that the whole thing is seamless. It's amazing. You can get the whole thing without any sewing at all. It's really
Yeah,
neat.
and Moosker saying that maybe as PJ bottoms, and I think that's what you're talking about is really more as loungewear,
I
more.
found exactly right. I found the minute I moved it out of streetwear and I put it into loungewear, I started to feel excited about it because then I thought, okay, that's the key.
Yeah, and I might make them, and that's the thing about top down is you can make them a little longer, so maybe they cover a little more cheek.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Those were actually, it's funny. It's you don't know with the shoot, you don't know the
yeah. Well, until
models that they're going to choose. You don't know how it's really going to fit them. And I would make everything sort of to fit myself. So it's interesting. Those are actually a lot bigger than they may appear.
yeah. So because this
For
girl's
sure.
really tall, so yeah, she's very long. You can tell. So it doesn't cover nearly as much length.
Yeah.
Funny. This is so cute. This would be one of those sweaters that you pull out and like wear every day.
Yeah, that was a fun one. The Be Sweet, their cotton is among, I adore that. I adore them. I think they're for that snow raglan. I use their yarn, and this is also their yarn. It's just very, I just love their yarn. They're just a magical sort of yarn. But
Yeah.
that was fun to try to figure out. I'd never really embroidered anything before, and I sort of had this idea of going sort of a Mexican, those beautiful Mexican embroidered pieces, and I thought it might be fun to try to experiment with that silhouette. And I discovered the fabric stabilizer that it's called Solvy. I'd never used it before, but then you could just trace it. It's sort of a very thin. It looks almost like plastic, but it's not. And you can draw on it, draw whatever outline or motif you want, and then pin it to your work, and then use that to embroider. Use the outline to embroider, and then when you're done, all you do is squirt it with a squirt bottle and the stabilizer just disappears and all you're left with is the embroidery. It's just a really neat tool to use if you want to embroider on your pieces.
Oh, and it keeps it from getting stretched out underneath, so it keeps your embroidery stable.
Yeah, you just lay the you just we
Oh,
were lucky to take photos of it for the book, but you just lay the stabilizer with you can get get a pen, and you can write, trace the outline of the motif on there, and then pin it or tape it or onto your work, and then use that, as your guide to embroider. You embroider, over the it's called Solvay or fabric stabilizer, and embroider over it,
and it
and
just
then using
washes away.
water. Just yeah, just it like magic. You just squirt it with water, and then it disappears, and then all you're left with are your stitches. Yeah,
Well,
it's
that
really neat.
person's brilliant. Whoever came up with that is brilliant.
I know. I loved discovering it, because I'm not a big embroiderer. I mean, I haven't really combined the two, but it was very, very easy. I think people might think, oh, that looks hard, but even the cover skirt, they're very simple stitches. It's not anything complicated. And I did make sure that all of the stitches that I used were, that there's a multitude of YouTube videos, and there's a tutorial in the book, but there's also, a lot of how-to videos available, so that if anybody um, wanted to look it up, they could.
Really pretty. Yeah, this looks like like the your summer tops that you throw on every day. And I think that's one of the things that I really love about the styling in this book is it's styled the way people really dress.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that was
So,
Pamela Duncan was the stylist on it. She was she's just a really, just made everything very easy, and yeah, she got it. She got it.
yeah, it's really pretty. And Trisha asked if the bottom of this top is elasticized. I think it's just the way she's sitting.
No,
Yeah,
no, it's not.
yeah, good. So, and this is the neckline on this is so pretty. So tell us about this coat.
I love the I wanted a sort of heavier piece that felt like a warm coat, and I always really liked the wood grain. It's called like the wood grain. It's again from one of Barbara's Treasury books, and to try to figure out how to have the collar match in the pattern, have the collar match, and then just I didn't want a big complicated front, so I just lined it with twill tape, and then used snaps that I sewed into the inside of it. But I wear it all the time. It's just very, very, very warm, and I love that it extends over your butt, so that it's just a very comfortable, warm thing. It was funny because at the photo shoot, they had several models. They're of course very thin, and it was cold, and everybody wanted to put that sweater on because it was so warm.
Yeah, this is getting so much love in the room right now. Everybody loves
Yeah,
this. And
that's great.
yeah, Moosker just asked for buttons, but this is snap tape it, right?
Yeah, the silver snaps that you just sew on the inside of the twill tape. That there's a sort of there's a better photo though, like of the very tip of it. I don't know which one it is, but like they show a little bit of the top edge, but no, we didn't have. It just looks flush, but then when you open it, it's the tape is on the inside. It's a little bit easier to not to have to fuss with buttonholes and all the rest of it.
I
It makes it
agree.
a little bit easier. And
Yeah.
because you're not seaming anything, you have a little bit of, ostensibly you have some time to sew some stuff on if you want at the end.
Yeah, well, if it's not buttonholes and trying to line buttons up, I'm all for it,
Yeah.
right? So, yeah, and reinforcing buttonholes, I'm okay with sewing on some snap tape. That's
Yeah, those nice heavy duty sort of silver snaps are great. I know they do the trick, and they just I don't know, they secure everything in a really sort of clean way.
Yeah, and they don't stretch out of shape like buttonholes do, so I'm all right with that. So that's my kind of snap. So now this is such a classic shape, but what I really love about this sweater is how the cables come up over the shoulders.
Ah, cool. Yeah, that's her. That's Walker's the template that um, we. It's a sweater that my grandfather had when I was growing up, and I just the front part of it, and then I extended it and made it so that it was sort of a saddle shoulder, easy to do, and uh, I just love the cable work. I love because it automatically feels like his sweater for me, and instantly feels old, in a good way. Like it harkens, it nods to something that I cared about, and I love cable sweaters. I'm nuts about them, so
Yeah,
as
and
long as it,
this is the kind of sweater that never goes out of style ever.
yeah, it's fun. It's really fun, and the history for me that he would wear it, and I have a sister, and she and I would always, we had his sweater. We'd always trade off every year, and I ended up copying that sweater, but that was in college, and so I had a version of it, not with the saddle shoulder. It was different. It wasn't top down, so it had seams, and so when I look at it now, I think, oh, I just see the seams. So
Well, and I like that the fact that the neck is a little lower than than the standard crew neck. I think it makes it makes it more feminine and it makes it more comfortable because
mhm.
to me crew necks are just too high, to be
Yeah.
really comfortable. Plus, it shows off a pretty shirt if you have a like a nice blouse under it, but it also shows off a little collarbone if you're a girl,
Mhm.
which I think is
Yeah, I
always
like
a
it.
little feminine.
I have several cable sweaters that are very high, and I purposely wanted it a little lower. I wear my I this is a very soft wool. It's like by this a friend of mine named Jill Draper. Jill Draper makes stuff, and it's her Hudson yarn, and it's very soft. But you never want anything too itchy, too close to your. I don't know. It's a style choice, but I do I do like it a little lower.
Yeah. I don't know, there's just something to me a little just more feminine about having a little bit of that little more neck. That's just pretty. And if you don't have a shirt underneath it, then you have a little collarbone, which I think is just I don't know, it's just a little girlier
Mhm.
personally. So here we have kind of the cardi version of the cable with that little bit of a lower neck, and the color on this is really just beautiful and girly.
Yeah. I love in Barbara's book, she has a lot of different stitch patterns, obviously, that we've talked about. And for this one, it was sort of wanting to just sort of do the ones that I always thought would be fun. So there was this mutton chop, it's called the mutton chop cable, which I thought was just hilarious. And because I know I've had friends that have experimented with the mutton chop.
And
Uh,
it's
and
and usually not successfully, I think. It's a
yeah,
tough look. The mutton
they
chop is a tough look.
They try. And the banjo cable, which I always thought was great. And then I did the coffee bean, like the stitch pattern that reminded me of coffee beans. And so it was just sort of a throw in of all the cable patterns that I'd always admired and wanted to, that I just thought were fun. They always made me smile. So it was the mutton chop one and the banjo cable. But yeah.
Yeah, which would explain why you called this the good things cardigan.
Yes, harkens to all the good things. That
How
was that was called the good thing cardigan. But yeah.
fun. Yeah, as Candy said, very nice. I agree. So, and this just shows you what happens when you just keep going.
Yes,
You start at the top and you just keep going. So,
yeah.
and yeah, the color on this is really, really striking too. So tell us about this tunic.
It's Luette gems, which I adore. I adore it because it just shows the stitches really well. But they had um, in the as I mentioned earlier, in the treasury, Barbara often provides little vignettes of how she came up with, or what the origins of the pattern, or a little discussion of why they're called what they are. And this one got my eye because it's called the King Charles brocade, and it was used in a vest, and some king in England in like 1649 or something, on the day of his execution, and it was just this like very involved. extreme, for me, very interesting story. And so I thought, well, I'm gonna have to use that one. And I just loved figuring out how to have the V of the neckline match, or and echo the lines that were already established as sort of a lattice look, and just to have it be sort of subtle as a tunic. And they styled it in a bit more as a dress, but you could easily wear it over over some tights, or however, a longer sweater. But it was just very, very for the template, it was just very fun to try to figure it out, how to shape in that with that stitch pattern. And I love the Louette. I think it's a great yarn. I used that for this piece, and for also for the porcupine sweater is also Louette, and it's just a really beautiful yarn.
I know in the book it says that this was based on Walker's square set template, and you said this is one of the easiest ones to knit in terms of shaping. So
Yeah, there's nothing to it. It's just they would say a tube with holes. So it's fun to try to figure out, okay, how do I what do I make with something where you basically have a lot of leeway, like what would I where do I go with it? And it was I just loved the opportunity to sort of play more with that particular stitch pattern, because I just thought it's just so subtle.
yeah, and Selena was saying you can keep going and have the skirt all the way down to the ankles. I mean, I think this is really the point about the top down, is you can actually make that decision as you go. Because I was thinking, oh, you could stop, shorter up the thigh, and you could, you could wear it over pants and a turtleneck if you could wear turtlenecks, which I can't. But you could also make it all the way down to the floor, or, so I think that's really the beauty of top down, is you can make that decision as you go.
Yeah, and
As
you have a lot of leeway too to decide how to customize it to your own body shape too. If you needed extra, it's easy to add. You just have to. It's just easy to adjust it as you go. In the start of her book, she outlines four simple rules to shaping, and it's basically everything you need to know in terms of adjusting patterns to your own size. Top one. Oh, look at the dog. So
I don't know.
cute.
I don't know what that was. I think somebody
They're
may had the
excited.
nerve to come near my house. Sorry.
So fun. That's so fun. No, it's just you do have a lot of leeway, and it frees you
Yeah. It's
from
so make it
frees you from
short,
a lot
make
of
it long, make it in
constraints of
between.
set patterns. You don't
Yeah.
have to follow once you understand.
Yeah, it's I mean
Yeah,
it's really amazing
absolutely.
when you like figure out that you don't have to do it the way it's written.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
can
It's a
you yeah, that
easy.
it's all up to you. The yarn and needles are in your hands.
Yeah, I agree.
You're in charge. I love this. I think this is crazy beautiful. And I never knit drop shoulder, and I
Yeah.
would make an exception for this. I love this.
I know the drop shoulder template's tough. It's a tough one, but I embraced it. I thought, you know what? I'll go full throttle drop shoulder on it. So it was a lot of fun. It was one of the most fun. This is one of the most fun pieces I've ever made, actually, to chart it out and to figure out that because you think, oh dear, this is gonna go wrong. But I had so much fun doing it that it's from the Winslow Homer, people recognize it from Winslow Homer Fox Hunt, and in his painting they had of course they had the big crow, and I'm like, I can't go full throttle and do the crow and all the the branch and everything. But it was a lot of fun trying to figure out how to play with knit and purl stitches to create texture, and to add sort of dimension to the back of his neck, and to have it wrap around. And here too, for people that don't like intarsia, or are worried about their tension, or not having just not wanting to go that route, this would be a good one to work the chart with duplicate stitch as well. You can just get, I wouldn't use the same weight. I would go lighter on the yarn, but it wouldn't be hard to duplicate stitch it. You wouldn't have some of the pearl, the pearl and knit effect, but it's another way to do it if they wanted to do it.
Yeah, this is like it's crazy beautiful. Mooskers ask if this type of sleeve is more difficult than the raglan.
Oh, no. This one is just, you basically just pick it up and knit down. It's actually easier. It's just, you know that it's, the drop shoulder. I guess it can feel sort of dated. I know I had a lot of them in high school in the 80s.
Yeah.
The drop shoulder, but I think it's one of the most, it's a super easy template. It's just basically just a square with holes, and then you pick up and knit down from there. It's not very, very, very easy to do.
Yeah, Trisha was saying she loves this. I agree, and that the texture underneath the fox is just really evokes the snow. It's just it's really beautiful. And we up where my cabin is in North Carolina, we have foxes, and we see them every once in a while. And this I must have this. I must have this. It is really crazy beautiful. So come back, come back. So and then it's not just garments in this book. We got a little accessory action happening too.
Yeah.
So
she had top-down hats. You can also make hats where you start obviously at the crown and work your way down, which is fun, and it gives you a little bit more control over length and being able to go longer if you need to, or shorter, and just calculate the circumference of your head and add stitches if you need to, and go down. But it's just a very you make a disc. You just start from the crown and make a disc, and then when you get to the number of stitches that you need to match your circumference of your head, you just knit straight down from there. It's a really fun way to make hats, that takes all the guesswork out of fit.
Yeah, especially if you have a big head or really, really thick hair, or both. So thank you very much. Yes. So there's the preview. So I know everybody wants to just run out to their local yarn store and pick up a copy. And that this is actually the second in the series. So because you're going to want the first one if you missed it. Which I have it in my library. So here's a copy. Here's where you can find it. And if you don't find it at your local yarn store, that if you go to Planet Pearls, if you go to our book page, just click on any book, and it'll take you to Amazon. And anything that you buy, if you clicked through on Planet Pearl, we get the tiniest commission, but it does help pay for things like our GoToMeeting interface, so that we can continue to bring you all these great authors who come and visit us. And I think we actually have 3 next week, by the way. So do come back Monday for I think Laura Watson, the editor of Molly Makes, is coming from London. On Wednesday, we have Kristen Omdahl coming to talk about knitting outside the swatch. And on Friday, we have the ladies from the new book Feltlicious. So we have got a big week next week. So when you buy through Amazon, through Planet Pearl, it helps us bring you those events. So the original Modern Top-Down Knitting is still in print, and so it gives you even more projects using the top-down technique. So although they have misspelled your name, Kristina, and they have you as Kristina McGowan, you should make sure they get that fixed.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah.
Picture.
I don't know why they did that. That's so many different variations of it. That's fine.
There you go. And then you can also, for those who are on Ravelry, you can find Kristina. Kristina has a designer page where you can find or you can find 53 of Kristina's projects. and you can contact Christina through Ravelry, right, Christina?
Yeah, I welcome it. I've met some incredible people on Ravelry. We were talking about this earlier, Beth, but I adore Ravelry. I can't say enough good things about how it just sort of has brought a lot of people together, and I meet people from all over the world, which is amazing to me. I've embraced it. I love answering. If you have any questions, I love answering. If you get stuck on anything, I'm more than happy to try to help.
I think one of the things that impressed me most when I came back to knitting 6 years ago was I had a question on a pattern that I bought from Tink Knit, Marta McCall, and I emailed, and Marta McCall emailed me back herself with the answer to my question. And I thought, what the heck? Really? The
Yeah,
designer emailed me back the answer to my question? What
yeah.
is this universe? So,
That
but
should be that way. It should be
yeah,
that
the whole world should be like that. I mean, and I do think that knitters and at that time I was still practicing law. That doesn't happen in the universe I used to live in. So, but yes, the world would be a better place if everyone was a knitter. So,
way.
yes, it's a wonderful world that we get to inhabit as knitters. So yes, so this is how you could contact Christina if you're working on one of her projects and you need some assistance if you have a question,
Absolutely.
and so you
Absolutely.
can see what Christina's working on. So what's next for you, Christina? Who's knitting you something for the holidays?
I know. Regrettably, I am the lone wolf in my friendship group. I don't have many knitter friends, so it's the other way around. It's what I knit for them. But it's a very every year I think, okay, I'm going to get started early. I'm sure many people feel that way. They're going to
uh,
and then you're
yeah.
knitting all the way up until the end.
Yes, I think that's true. I think that a lot of people are putting those last binding off those last stitches on Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
So yes, so you'll have a lot of company if that would be you. So
Oh,
yeah, but thank you very much for joining us, Christina. I hope you
no,
come
thank
back because
you.
I hope there's going to be even more modern top-down knitting coming our way.
I really
It's a,
appreciate it.
yeah, it's an absolutely beautiful book and a really, really fascinating topic and just beautiful, beautiful projects. So,
Thank you
thank,
so
th-
much.
thanks so much for joining us. And people in the room, do not leave because you know I'm about to give away a book. So,
Can I
yeah,
stay and find out who gets the book?
absolutely. So, I'm getting ready to stop recording. So, thank you, everyone. Thank you, especially Christina. Don't go away.
Thank you.